Okay, so I just want to know what you think about what Scott Rasmussen had to say today at the Americans for Prosperity movement.
He had an awful lot of information that was important for us to hear from a perspective of somebody that sees the entire campaign, both sides, and he projected a bunch of thoughts that I really hadn't thought a whole lot about, but now that he has, I'll have to look more in depth into it.
Right. And so what do you think about Barack Obama's policies and how he's fulfilled those?
I'm not at all happy with the way he's progressed. You know, he made an awful lot of promises that he hasn't come through with, among which is sunshine, you know, letting us see what's going on behind the scenes, which he has never come through with. And I'm very disappointed with him.
Amen. So if you could speak to your neighbors and friends all at once, what kind of advice would you give them, you know, politically on what to do right now?
I think they really have to look at what each candidate stands for and what their record is to this point on what they've done. You know, it's a little tough for for Romney's side, mainly because he hasn't been in the office. He's not subject to some of the privileged information that goes on. So he's just kind of shooting from the hip as to what he thinks he would do under similar circumstances, but he doesn't probably know everything. I don't think anybody does, as a first-timer, knows what's happening in that office until they get there. But having said that, I think that he still shows, in general, a more positive direction than what we've seen out of the president. Again, it's not on every subject. I think that Romney has some opinions that I don't necessarily agree with, and I would like to see the parties become a little bit closer to the middle of the road, where they're willing to give on some things and get together and bring the country together, as opposed to being so diametrically opposed and fighting with each other all the time. We've gone nowhere with this Congress.
Well, you heard Scott Rasmussen say that Americans are split down the middle, and the only reason is because people are staying at home because they don't trust either candidate. So what are we going to do? What do you see happening in the future to prevent this kind of stalemate?
Well, that's a tough one, because people just get disillusioned with what they hear, and more I keep hearing people that say, well, let's just vote no for president. Well, I mean, you know, that may be your thought, but it's not a realistic possibility.
Right,
you know?
You're
We're
right.
going to have somebody.
There is a voter abstinence movement growing,
exactly,
and we are trying to combat it. Do you think Romney has actually addressed the voter abstinence movement that's growing?
Not as much as maybe he should.
Amen.
Not as much as he should.
So do you recommend that your neighbors and your friends and family sign the AFP petition?
Yes, I do. Yeah, we signed it.
I think the advice you gave me the other day was good, which is to look at the overall picture, because I am Republican, but I'm not happy with some of the things that Romney stands for. But I'm not happy with what's gone on over the past, 3.5 or 4 years. So I'm one of those swing voters. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And he says, you got to look at the overall picture. You might not agree with everything that one of the candidates stands for, but you got to go with
something.
So if you could tell President Romney one thing, President Romney, if you could tell,
that's a good start.
If you could tell Governor Romney one thing, what would you tell him?
I wish he'd stay out of women's rights, is what I wish. I think he's losing probably a lot of women voters, because they're meddling too much with that aspect.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.